You're listening to the Water Cooler Edit with Chris and Rich. Hello everybody and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2023 and welcome to the first episode of the new year of the Water Cooler Edit. Where have the past 14 days gone already? I've had no time to call the Magic 8 Ball just yet. I guess I'm going to have to wait a little bit longer. Of course, there have been some big changes, but there's no changes to what you see in front of you. It's myself, Chris, and Rich alongside. The weather has been absolutely fantastic this year, and it's a great way, actually, to celebrate the new year as well. But that's not what we're going to talk about here today. We've got a few things that have changed and actually been introduced here into the United Arab Emirates. This year, for example, we'll have an unemployment program from the government, which helps you in case you lose your job. The MMI and African and Eastern have dropped their prices by 30%. And visit visas have changed. But what have they changed to? Well, before we get to that, what I really want to talk about here is the insurance scheme, this unemployment insurance scheme that they introduced. Now, it was introduced late into the year, but it is a entirely new thing that has happened here, and it does benefit some of us, I will say. It's not available to everyone just yet. And I have a feeling this is sort of like a testing phase. I think they're figuring out, like, will this work out? Is there a demand for it? I mean, yes, there is a demand for it because I know many people that attempted to get it. Yeah. I myself did it. I watched 4 other people attempt to get it. And of the 4, only one was actually, able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost, you could see it as like a soft launch, right? For potentially it going more holistic down the line. And I agree with you. I know loads of people who have signed up, and I know that the websites have been absolutely inundated with people signing up. So it's making waves, right? It's making waves. Now, one thing we should point out is that free zones are exempt.
Yes. So that actually takes out the majority of the population because a lot of people work for free zone companies.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of us found out maybe the hard way because, for example, when I tried to do it, I actually tried to do it at 1 minute past midnight on the 1st of January 2023. It said you could subscribe, but I didn't realize that subscribe meant to actually apply for the program. So instead, I waited a couple of hours and then I tried to do it and unfortunately got an error message.
So firstly, as we said, free zones exempt. Now, for people who can sign up, there's 2 categories. You've got people who are earning under 16,000 dirhams monthly and those earning over 16,000 dirhams monthly. Now, you sign up and if let's take someone who's earning under 16,000 dirhams monthly, they will pay 5 dirhams per month into this scheme. So that's a total of 60 dirhams in a year. All right? Say at some point they lose their job for whatever reason, redundancy, whatever. They would then receive 3 months worth of 60% of their basic salary. So let's take someone who earns 10k, right? 10,000 dirhams a month. They've been in the scheme for a year, they've been paying their 5 dirhams a month, they lose their job, they're made redundant. They would get, it's obvious, and this is important actually, it's 60% of your base salary, right?
As an example, we'll take that 10k and say that's the whole salary. The base would probably be around 6, and then the other 4 would be for transportation and accommodation. So we're looking at that 6,000, and you get 60% of that.
Yes,
correct?
You'll get 60% of the 6,000 for 3 months, right? And then after the 3 months, that's it. So basically, essentially what it is, and I should say, for the lower category, for those earning under 16,000, the maximum they can get of in these monthly payments is 10,000 dirhams. For the higher category, it's 20,000 dirhams. So if you get 20,000 dirhams a month through the scheme, that would be a maximum of 60k over the 3 months. It's security. It's an element of security. It's a safety net to an extent. I think that's how we should look at it.
It really is, and it's the first of its kind here in the United Arab Emirates. We've never had this before, so of course a lot of people were interested in it. There's been a lot of interest gathering. A lot of people have been talking about it as well, but kind of when it launched, it was a little bit kind of confusing exactly how it would work. For example, you have to wait 12 months before it comes into effect.
Yeah.
So if you pay into it now at the moment, as long as you keep your job for the next 12 months, you'll be eligible for it.
Yes.
However, at the moment, not quite yet. But I do believe this is kind of like we said before, this is kind of like a testing phase to see how much of a demand there is for this. Honestly, I wanted to do it. My entire household wanted to get it done because it's a safety net. You know, you never know what's going to happen. You know,
this is it, right? We all either ourselves or people we know, things can change, right? Your job can seem as secure as, but then the company has financial trouble, whatever. You know, these things happen. Pandemics come along and wipe out companies all over the place, right? So as much of a safety net as you can have in place, I can completely understand why people are signing up for it and are on board with that. So it's hard to see it not being a success.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. You've got to be, I don't know how to say it, but you've got to be pretty far out there to think this won't be a success because, again, this is a safety net. This is a cushion for you in case anything does happen.
Exactly.
You know.
I mean, it's not going to keep you safe forever, but it gives you that buffer. It gives you that little bit of time.
Exactly. It keeps you going for those hardship, the 3 months for you to look for a new job, and it keeps the bills covered or the rent check covered, you know. And it's a sizable amount. 60% of your base salary is nothing to laugh at. It's additional income that you won't have for, say, 3 months.
Yeah.
So it will keep you afloat. If
you lose your job for whatever reason, it's a period of, oh dear, what am I going to do? What's the plan? So anything you can do to make that situation, should it come about, potentially easier, give yourself a little bit of peace of mind and just feel that, okay, right, it's not good, I've lost my job, right, but I've got a little bit of breathing space here, I've got a little bit of financial support to chill while I get myself on my feet, get a plan sorted, what I'm going to do, etc., because we know, like here, as it's been in the past, a lot of times when you lose your job, you know, you're losing your visa as well, you're losing your health insurance, everything can go, and it can be quite overwhelming. So, yeah, I totally see why people are on board.
So on the topic of visas, the visa rules have been changed or altered slightly. They've actually gone back to what they were before the pandemic hit. So you now have to exit the country for your visa to be reprocessed or essentially extended. Now, this reminds me of the days we used to do visa runs back there. We used to drive down to Oman or make a day of it, you know, and kind of have your 30 or was it 40 days kind of extended.
Yeah, it's 30 days, but there used to be 10 days grace. I will say that, so making it 40 days, right? But I will say that travel agencies here are saying that they wouldn't recommend people take that 10 days grace as a certain, just see it as you have 30 days, that's it, right? So renew within the 30 days. But we say renew, that's what people, during the pandemic, the rules were changed and people could renew from within the country.
Yeah.
The pandemic, thankfully, he says, seems to be behind us for the most part. Well, the seriousness of the infections. So, it's back on the visa runs, mate. We've all done them.
Yep.
People are heading down to Oman and doing the old in-out or making a day of it, like you say, like some people do. Was it so hard?
No, was it? I think that's further into the city. I can never remember what the border is. I know you have to drive through Hatta to get to it, but I can never remember what that area is called.
I've done a few different ones and gone to different, because you can go in through Iraq as well, can't you?
Yeah, you can go to Muslim Dam.
And I was reading this morning travel agencies saying that the buses that are going to and from the coaches that they set up are booked up big time since this news came in. So if you need to do visa runs, maybe be thinking ahead and book up. We've got post articles on the blog about this, explaining. But essentially, like you say, it's going back to how it was pre-pandemic.
So one of the biggest announcements of the new year, and it did come at the 11th hour, I think a lot of people found out, if I'm not mistaken, it was like an hour before midnight before the clock
It was
strikes zero.
pretty close. Cinderella was on her way to the ball.
I think she was on the way to somewhere else. 30% reduction on certain beverages. And what I mean by that is adult beverages that are served in places that are licensed to do so. And I've been here for a very long time, and I know that there was a huge, I would say, issue obtaining it individually or privately, because you had to have had a license beforehand. Now, it was relatively cheap. I think it was only about 400 dirhams per year or something like that. So it didn't exactly break the bank. But they announced that it would be free for everybody as well, and there is a 30% reduction on those beverages.
Well, yeah, basically it's the municipality tax of 30% that retailers and restaurants and all that used to have to pay, don't have to pay anymore.
Yes,
No.
and this is not just for going and buying it yourself. This is actually as well in establishments as well. We've seen in the past couple of weeks a lot of establishments change prices, introduce new things that have happened, or happy hours and things like this have occurred and popped up all over the place essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think, one thing we should say first of all is that this is a temporary measure.
Yes,
right?
it is only for 12 months.
Yeah, so we'll see. Look, who knows if it will be extended beyond that, but as we know at this stage, as much as we know at this stage, it's going to be for 12 months. And I think one of the things was people were like, okay, well, that's great, but how swiftly are we going to see the discounts come in? Because, you're going to get bars and restaurants saying, well, we already had our stock, we've already paid the 30%, so we didn't know if it was going to take 1, 2, 3, 4 months. And I still think that's interesting to see as the year develops. But there's no doubt that we are already seeing in certain places, certain establishments, some significant drops in prices. Couple of, MMI you were saying about, I saw a list of their reductions the other day. It was pretty comprehensive, some whopping ones on there. And like the Premier Inn, they've dropped their prices considerably on pretty much across the board, right? So depending on the establishment, I think it's going to take longer with some to come through and actually have an effect on your pocket if you are an alcohol consumer. Easy for me to say that one, struggling. But yeah, let's see what happens, man. But I think, look, it can be good news because I don't know when you talk to people from the UK back home and they talk about coming on holiday to Dubai, it has a reputation. One of the things they always say, everyone wants to come here, it's glamorous, it's sunny, fantastic. People love it, but people always say about the price of alcohol.
Yes, this is true, because if we compare it to where we're from, there is a stark difference.
Yeah.
And availability is a lot easier as well. And availability of here has been either behind a paywall, essentially, or a membership card, or you had to drive out of the Emirate to go get it from another establishment. And what this has kind of done now is that they've reduced not only the price, but traveling time. We no longer have to travel to the Northern Emirates to get a can or a bottle or something. If you're going to a friend's house, and the prices that what I've seen have come down, as you said before, on certain products, maybe not some others, because they were obviously purchased before this happened. And it was, honestly, it was a very late change. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of the Water Cooler Edit for the new year. Of course, we look forward to more changes that will come out, and of course, learning more about this unemployment program, of course, and the visit visas as well, because it might change again, because 6 months does seem like a long time, doesn't it, Rich?
It does indeed. But as we've said previously, the time flies, Chris.
It does.
So 14 days into the new year. What's going on, man?
I can't believe it. And probably by the time we do the next episode, it'll be the end of the year. But if you want to learn more about the subjects that we discussed on this episode, you can of course check out the MyBayut blog, which is Bayut.com/MyBayut. Thank you so much for watching.
Cheers, guys.
And make sure you go on those resolutions. I'm off to call the Magic 8 Ball.
You're listening to the Water Cooler Edit with Chris and Rich.